Hello, and welcome to F1 with my uncle. I'm Matt, and joined, as always, by my uncle, Dan. And today we're going to be going over each team in kind of a season so far sort of thing, and just kind of looking at each of their fortunes and how they've done, what we think they might be able to do better, and so on. And towards the end, we will be having a bit of a rapid fire sort of news where we'll be talking about Andretti potentially joining F1, Miami potentially being overhyped, some potential issues with Ferrari, how Mercedes might try to turn things around, and a little bit of a look forward at Spain. So, Dan, where do you want to start with all this?
Hey Matt, how you doing? You know what? Why don't we start by? I was thinking we're coming into race number 6 in Spain,
Yeah.
and you and I were talking earlier. There were 23 races scheduled. Right now, it's 22. They may find a 23rd,
Yep.
but after Spain, even going into it, we're right around the 25% point. The season, believe it or not, is right about 25% over. After Spain, like 24% now, and after Spain, it'd be like 26, 27, depending on if we have that
Yeah.
23rd race. So I thought, and there are some lines that have developed so far in the season that I wanted to address. So I like numbers. I'm a numbers guy. So what I thought I'd do is go through the constructor points at this time. We'll focus on teams. So right now, after the race in Miami, Ferrari has 157 constructor points.
Mm-hmm.
They're leading the constructors. Now Red Bull is in second, but they're only 6 points behind at 151 points.
Yeah.
And then so it's very, very close. And then
Yeah.
but then what's interesting to me is in third place is Mercedes, and they only have 95 points. So that's let me see,
56.
51 point deficit.
56, I think. 151 to
50
95.
95 to 51. Yeah.
I'm
Oh
bad
yeah,
at math. I could be
56. Yeah,
wrong.
you're right. Yeah, 56 points.
Okay.
Okay, so that's significant.
Yeah.
That's a significant distance. So there's a short distance between Red Bull and Ferrari, and then there's a big gulf between Red Bull and Mercedes. But in fourth place in the constructors series right now is McLaren with 46 points. So you have McLaren is closer to Mercedes as far as their deficit, making it up, than Mercedes is to Red Bull.
Yeah. Interesting.
And then, okay, I'll run through the rest of these and then we'll talk about these pairings or we can talk about it on the way if you want. But basically, it looks like Ferrari and Red Bull right now, they're only 6 points apart. They're each in the 100, over 150 points. They're clearly vying for number one and number two in the
Yeah. Yeah.
constructors championship. And then with Mercedes at 95 points and McLaren at 46, they're vying for third spot. Right now, Mercedes owns third, but they're nowhere near second.
Yeah.
But they own third. But McLaren could start to give Mercedes a run for their money for third place. And then beyond McLaren, you have Alfa Romeo with 31 points and Alpine with 26. So they're kind of close.
Mm-hmm.
And then beyond that, we have AlphaTauri with 16 and Haas with 15. So
Mm-hmm.
they're very close. And then the two teams that are lowest in the constructors' points are Aston Martin with 6 points and Williams with 3. So that's the gap. Ferrari has 157 points. Williams has 3. So you can certainly
Oof.
see some of the stuff that's going on now. So you kind of have Aston and Williams vying for the bottom position, or
Ninth or whatever.
the bottom, yeah, ninth and 10th. And then you have AlphaTauri and Haas going for the two positions above that. And right now they're virtually tied, 16 to 15. Then you have Alpine and Alfa Romeo. They're very close, going for what could be one, two, three, like
Fifth and
fourth and
sixth.
fifth position. Yeah.
Fifth and sixth.
Or fourth and fifth, with Mercedes clearly in third, and then Red Bull and, I'm sorry, you're right, fifth and sixth. And then you have Red Bull and Ferrari going for first and second.
Yeah.
Mercedes, McLaren for third and fourth. Alfa
Yeah.
Romeo, Renault for fifth and sixth on it. So I think I think we covered it.
Yeah. Obviously, it's a really, really long season, and this order is bound to
Hmm.
change. It'll probably change by the end of Spain. But So this is the point in the championship where you start to see trends emerge and you start to see where things may end up. Obviously, it's a brand new car, lots of development can happen. It's a long season, but you start to see these trends and you start to see these positions starting to actually take place, which is why we kind of put McLaren and Mercedes fighting each other, even though
Hmm.
they're 50 points. McLaren's 50 points back. I think if you look at kind of their race pace, McLaren seems to have a fairly even car with Mercedes. Maybe not quite on their level, but they're pretty close. They just have had a series of unfortunate circumstances that have kept them out of the points.
Well, they're
So
both McLaren. Yeah, they're both McLaren are Mercedes powered, but McLaren seems to have a better chassis than Mercedes does because
they
they don't
do,
suffer from
yeah,
the porpoising. Now, McLaren's biggest hindrance is, you have a new driver like, Lando Norris, who took himself out of the race this time, or they would have even more constructor points.
yeah,
And you have Danny Ricciardo that, hasn't been vying for, like the top positions, in every race like he should be. So,
right, right.
but, I mean, do you see any anomalies other than, I mean, we didn't expect Mercedes to be in third, but they
No,
clearly are at this point.
yeah.
But other than that, do you see anything in these groupings that surprises you?
Um, at this point in the season, given how well Haas started, I would have expected them to not be eighth. I would have expected them to be sixth, maybe even fifth. But I think they're
Okay.
kind of held back by Mick Schumacher, who's still kind of a rookie and hasn't finished in the points ever yet. So
Well,
there's
he
that.
could have in Miami, but he was taken out by good old Vettel.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, yeah,
He
that's
would have
true.
had some. He would have had his first point. See, I think that's why it was so depressing for him.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that the biggest anomaly for me, again, taking Mercedes off the table, is
Yeah.
perhaps Williams. I think
Hmm.
now, bear with me on this because they've brought up the rear for the past several seasons, but
Yeah.
they were on such a good trajectory. Like for the last year when they were bought by Doralton Capital or whatever, it seemed like they were getting, you know, the money that they needed, the funding, the change in leadership of people who seemed to know what they're doing. And now obviously losing somebody like George Russell is a big hit, but
Hmm.
Albon has actually, I think, surprised me, probably a lot of people in how well he's done this year. So that wasn't as big of a hit as it could have been. But they were just lining themselves up to be not the bottom of the barrel again. And yet that's where they find themselves.
Well, it's not. Yeah, I think the thing is they do have fairly recent new management structure.
True.
They have the least amount of money I think of anybody on the grid. So yeah, and I mean they're still in a building process. So
True.
I would like to see them higher, but I'm not entirely surprised to see them on the bottom.
Yeah, I wasn't
Well, I'll
expecting
I'll tell you
them to
one.
be midfielders or anything. I was just more
Mhm.
expecting them to not be 10th and be like 8th or
Well,
7th or something.
now one thing I think we should discuss anyway is I find it really interesting that Alfa Romeo with Valtteri Bottas is
Yeah.
they're in fifth place, and I'm looking at these numbers. And I'm seeing that really AlphaTauri, Alpine, and Alpha, I think those teams could there you can't really say for sure. It's not hard and fast because they're they have if one team like how there's a rain race and then AlphaTauri will get first place or Lando
Right,
Norris
yeah,
gets
yeah.
first place. We could have a couple of these anomalous races, and then one of these teams, bam, they're right up there with McLaren.
Yeah, yeah.
If they get
Yeah.
25 points in a race or 30 points in a race, then wow, that changes everything. That would actually put like, Alpine above McLaren right now. Or
Yeah.
if McLaren gets a whole bunch of points, they could surpass Mercedes.
True. Yeah, if
So,
Mercedes gets a double DNF or something or they just have a
yeah.
really bad showing and both, Norris and Ricardo end up, 4th and 5th or one of them gets on the podium and the other one's solidly in the points, they're tied with Mercedes. Like,
And so far in the season, now, and this is what, like Max winning Miami was really interesting. We didn't really spend too much time talking about it after we did the Miami
Yeah, I
follow-up.
know.
But I don't know, the point that we probably should have, expounded on a little bit more, I think, is that, because he crashed in practice 1, he missed practice 2, so he going into practice 3 and qualifying, he only had 5 laps of the track
Yeah,
before going into Saturday.
yeah,
So, here's a brand new track that's technical and had its problems, with the slippery corners and the bumpy surfaces and things like that. And Ferrari had had a ton more laps. They had,
wow.
the
I didn't
sides
even
and
consider that.
yes, I thought more about it. That's why it's kind of fun to do these
Yeah, yeah.
midweek, kind of a quick look back because it does give you time to digest things more. But and here's Max basically comes into this thing green, starting
Yeah.
fourth, and he wins the dang race.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even
And
think about
Ferrari
that.
didn't make any huge mistakes.
No, they didn't. Yeah.
So, I think when I was picking my top 4, I mean, obviously, I went with both teams, Ferrari and Red Bull, in the
Yeah,
top
yeah.
4, but I chose Leclerc to win if it was dry and Max to win because of his experience if it was at all wet. And anyway, Max won. But I'm thinking that, you know, so what you see is that my point that I wanted to make, and I almost lost it, was I really thought Ferrari had the faster car in a straight line, and after seeing the race, and that's not true. The
No.
actually the Red Bull is faster in a straight line than the Ferrari right
Yeah, they've been
now.
showing that all
Slightly
year,
more. Yeah,
and
it's close. It's really close, and there's sometimes now because obviously Ferraris have pole position, so it's close. It's to the point where if anybody makes a mistake, the other guy's going to be on pole. If
yeah.
Max makes a mistake, Leclerc's or vice versa.
Yeah, no, going into this season, the one thing I wanted, apart from Mercedes not being dominant, but, that was more of a personal
Sure.
thing.
Yeah. Well, they've been there for so long. It's like, move over, guys. Time for somebody else.
I know, I just wanted something different. But the one thing I wanted was a competitive season like we got last
Mm-hmm.
year, and that seems
Mm-hmm.
to be what we're getting. I hope neither Red Bull nor Ferrari falls off, and I hope that they can continue fighting each other throughout the rest of the season because that's where the excitement is, and that's what I'd like to see.
Yeah. Yeah. Last year, it started off kind of boring, but then it got exciting and stayed exciting right up into the very
No, I
end.
think I think Max took the first win out the gate.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, right around mid-season, Lewis came back and just bam,
Oh, yeah,
bam,
yeah,
bam,
yeah,
bam,
true.
and started just, I mean, killing it.
Yeah,
They picked up speed in the car, if you remember.
yeah,
They made some change to the power plant or did something, and then Lewis just started killing
I
it.
forgot
It's
about
like,
that,
oh my,
yeah.
and Red Bull really had no response to that.
Yeah, Max was dominating for, like, the first half, and then they just couldn't touch Lewis for the second, you know, chunk, and
Yeah,
then Red Bull was able to kinda claw things back, but yeah, yeah, yeah. I
and Lewis
so
didn't put a whe and Lewis drove his heart out. He didn't put a wheel wrong during that period of time, and
yeah,
because he wanted his 8th title.
yeah,
That's why it was, going into it
yeah,
at the end with Lewis leading and there's not that many laps left. I'm like, well, this is a done deal. And then, you and I were together watching that race on TV, and
yeah.
I'm like, it would take a miracle. And then all of a sudden, the clouds opened, the horns blew, and the miracle happened.
Yeah.
Latifi spun, and then oh man, safety car that changes everything. Red, Anyway, we're not going to
Yeah.
get into that, but
No, no.
it was exciting, and so this season it's exciting from the beginning. Now, who knows what could happen? It could go the other way, where it could get boring again.
Mhm.
But I feel like I guess my other point was the Ferrari has a very reliable car, a very consistent car, and a very fast car, and they have two incredible drivers with Sainz and Leclerc. Now Red Bull has an amazing there's a reason that Max Verstappen is the world champion right now. He is that good.
Yeah.
It's really his season. But due to the reliability issues and things, I think Red Bull they have a faster car, but I don't think it's as polished as the Mercedes. So that's going to be
Yeah.
something to keep an eye on. If you put Max in a Ferrari right now, forget it.
Yeah.
Game over,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, he may not
That
like the
that's kind of what
porpoising,
I'm
but
getting at.
yeah.
It would be game over because yeah, they're bouncing a little the Ferrari is, but it doesn't affect the car at all,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
So
Well,
so
so wait,
that
hold
yeah,
on. So you think that the Ferrari is the better car right now? Is that what you're saying?
it's not they're very close in speed. I mean, Red Bull's faster, like I said, but the reason I do believe that Ferrari is the better car is that that car they have more consistent results, and they have had no DNFs except for accidents. It hasn't broken down. It's so far in the season, it's a very smooth driving, reliable, fast car.
Mm,
And it seems well suited to each track surface that we've been to so far. Where Red
true.
Bull, you're always kind of holding your breath, like I
Mm,
was on Saturday during qualifying, because I remember what happened in FP2, that they tried to come out, and there was the fire and the I can't steer thing that took him out of
mhm.
free practice too. So I'm like, well, did they fix it or not? You don't know. Well, with Ferrari, it's just they just go out and drive. They don't have those issues. So, and then they had to change the gearbox, and Red Bull did, and Ferrari didn't have to do any of that.
Right,
So,
right.
it's kind of interesting. I think Red Bull has a much stronger team. You see the dichotomy here. Red Bull has a stronger
Mm,
team.
interesting.
Ferrari has a better car, slightly better car as far as reliability and polish goes. Probably a slightly better engineered car, even though it's a tiny bit down on power. They could fix that though, but it's a tiny bit down on power. And then Red Bull has the better driver. Max is Charles Leclerc is a great driver, but Max is better. I mean, he's the world champion and he deserves to be. So, he's the better driver. So that's what I'm getting at. But if you put Max in a Ferrari, it would be insane.
See,
It could be a different story.
I think I'm actually gonna disagree. I think that the Red Bull suits him, and I think that the Red Bull is not an inferior car. It's definitely
I
less
didn't say
reliable.
inferior. I didn't say inferior. I just think this Ferrari is slightly better from a reliability
Well,
perspective.
that means that it's
Yeah.
superior.
Why I didn't call Red Bull inferior.
Well, okay.
I'm just saying, I think they're really close,
Okay.
but maybe I just like red better than blue. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I
I
think
do like Ferrari red, I must admit. So
yeah, yeah. Well, this year it's a little bit of a darker shade. It's not quite their classic
that is
Ferrari
true.
red,
And yeah,
but
I kind of miss the bright solid red. I love solid
yeah,
colors, and
yeah.
I miss the bright red, blood
But
red
yeah,
color.
I don't know. I think obviously nobody's going to dispute that Max is one of the best drivers on the grid. Some have even said he's currently the best driver on the grid, even better than Hamilton. And I think you can
Yeah.
certainly make that case. I don't know that I would immediately jump to that, but he's certainly up there. But when looking at Leclerc, I think honestly Leclerc is on Max's level. He's not as good of a driver, but he's certainly on the same kind of caliber tier that Max is on. So I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to
yeah, they're on
them.
the same level, but I think Max is better
Yeah,
than Leclerc.
yeah,
I mean, if you had to put it, I think he's now that could change. That will change over time. Max is
yeah.
getting older. Leclerc is pretty young, and they've reached each other
They're the
from their
same
karting
age. They're
days.
16 days apart.
They're yeah, they're very close, but they've been together since karting age. But
Yeah.
I think Max has more. What I mean is he's got more years in a Formula One car than
True. Yeah,
than
yeah, yeah.
Leclerc does.
Yeah,
So,
true.
and he's got that experience that comes with that extra, car age, if you will.
Oh, fun fact about Max and why he was snatched
Hmm.
up so early about by Red Bull.
Hmm.
Red Bull grabbed him because they caught wind that Mercedes wanted Max. And so Red Bull jumped in before Mercedes could and picked him up.
Not surprising. That's how
Yeah,
competitive these teams are.
I know.
Okay, so what do we want to? Where do we want to go next? Any
I think
ideas?
I kind of want to talk about Aston Martin a little bit
Okay,
because
okay,
they're 6 points in the constructors. Things were looking up for them, and then at the end of 2020, things were looking really, really good. They were racing point at the time. They became
yep.
Aston last year, and things were looking good before going into the season. And then there was the regulation change about the low rake cars or something, the floor design. I don't remember what it specifically that impacted them and Mercedes and maybe a handful of other teams, but it
Hmm.
affected them the most, and they could never really recover. So they had a mediocre, less than desirable last year. But things
Yep.
were like, we can improve on this. There's a brand new car design we can do well. We've still got Vettel, who's really good. Stroll has not been terrible. He's actually been pretty decent. And then coming into this year, there was some leadership changes. Their team principal left for Alpine. And then there was a few other
Yeah.
things that happened, and it just seems like it's one of these cases, kind of like what you were talking about with Williams, where there's like nobody steering the ship, or it's just not
Yeah.
necessarily that, but like
Yeah,
it's
it's
too
not that
much
there's no
change
one.
and it's not stable.
Maybe it could be. The other thing is, I mean, this is Formula One, and any weakness will be revealed instantly.
Oh yeah.
And I think the other thing that's a surprise is Haas is doing better this year.
Hmm.
And going into the season, they lost their main sponsor. They lost their
It was not
driver.
looking good.
No, no, but they're also running a Ferrari engine. So,
True.
so you have Haas, doing better than they did last year, and they actually seem to be gelling as a team. Gunter Steiner seems to be
Hmm.
doing a great job. So
Yeah.
they're improving. AlphaTauri's doing really well, and then Alpine, you have Fernando, and I think the biggest wild card in this list is Alpine, frankly. I think Alfa Romeo, like, I think Valtteri's getting the most out of that car right now. But I think it's potential that Fernando's going to be able to eke a little more out of the Renault, the Alpine Renault car. And it's possible that they're going to wind up, vying with McLaren. And hopefully, McLaren, we have to see where they go. What happens if Daniel consistently can't post results? Do they let him finish the season? I
Yeah,
hope
I mean,
not.
he's contracted through the end of next year, but I'm sure there's
He
performance
can stay on
clauses.
contract, but they can still hire a different driver.
Oh, that's a fair point.
I think they can. As far as I know, they can.
I'd imagine that there's performance clauses, like exit clauses on both sides. Like if you don't perform up to such and such level, or for his
Sure.
side, if you don't give me such and such a car, I'm sure there's clauses in there. But I mean, you hate to have to resort to that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they have to do everything as a team to give him a competitive car. They can't sandbag him. But
right, right.
but I think, there's going to be some clause where, hey, if you for some reason are no longer competitive, then we have a right to, we're signing a contract, which is always a risk. And the same thing happens in baseball, where my favorite team in baseball is are the Angels in the American League, and there's times where they'll sign, and like an older player, they do this. And they shouldn't do it, but they do this all the time. And they'll give him a gigantic contract, and then they're hamstrung with the guy because then
Mm,
he comes up with an injury, and they're
yeah,
stuck with him for 5 years until they can get rid of him.
yeah,
And there's salary caps in baseball, just like there are in everything else. So and then they can't get the guys they really need because they're paying for this guy that's not producing, and it's just, oh my gosh,
yeah,
it
yeah.
drives you insane. So in this case, there's going to be caps, there's going to be salary issues, and McLaren would have to get a replacement driver that wasn't making that much money, but he's making a name for himself.
Do they have salary caps? I know they have a cost cap, but I thought that the drivers' salaries were exempt from
No,
that.
that was in baseball. In
No,
baseball
I know,
there's
but I
salary
mean
caps.
in
you
Formula
know
One.
um I I would imagine it's part of the entire budget, but it's a good question.
I'm actually pretty sure
It's
it's
something we
exempt
can.
from the cost cap, but I didn't know if there was if they were capped
Mm,
on how
I
much
think
they
it's
could
the
spend.
cost of the team. I bet who knows? It might
Yeah,
be.
okay.
Yeah, that's something we'll have to look into, and then
Yeah, yeah.
we'll figure it out. And yeah, that's why it's what's so fun about the sport. There's so many variables.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, hopefully it won't
Anyway,
come to that. I still think Ricardo is a perfectly capable driver, and I don't know
mhm.
why he's just not been able to get the results. I mean, we can speculate and we have plenty of times, but
I think you stated it right there. There's no use in even going farther. He's perfectly capable. He isn't doing it. Nobody knows why right now.
yeah, fair point.
So that's the entire issue. I don't even think he knows what's going on right now.
Yeah, no, good point. So last, no, maybe not lastly, but another team I wanted to talk about was Alpine, because I feel like
Yes.
they've also underperformed this year. They've had competitive cars. We saw in Australia where
Mhm.
Alonso may have even gotten pole on that crazy lap he was driving. Now,
Right.
who knows what would have happened? He probably wouldn't have, but he would have been up there.
He was on a pole lap. He was setting purple sectors.
Yeah, yeah.
He was going to be on pole. I mean, or at least on the front row.
Yeah, I just don't remember at what phase in the session that was, and if someone could have possibly beat him later, which obviously are variables that
I
we can't
think it
know.
was in the 3rd sector he crashed, so
No,
it
I
was
know,
really close. Yeah.
but yeah, at any rate, so they have a competitive car, and
Yeah.
yet they've been plagued with reliability. And we said earlier in the season, reliability is the name of the game right now, and that has not been kind to them. So I think
And
on
bad luck. And bad
true,
luck too.
true. I think on pace they have a fifth, maybe fourth place car, but they've just had a very
Yeah.
unfortunate string of events.
Well, that's why I said, when we were going through the teams, I said Alpine is my big wild card team.
Yeah, yeah.
They could easily be in 3rd or 4th place, depending on if Fernando unleashes that car and
Yeah.
uses his
Well,
expertise, we're pretty much saying the same thing.
and Ocon too, like, people sleep on
Mhm.
him, but he's actually a decent driver. Now, he hasn't performed as well as I think he can, and I don't know why that is. Maybe it's due to because sometimes drivers get complacent when they get massive contracts, so he has, like, a 6-year contract with them or something ridiculous. So maybe that plays into it a little bit where he knows he's secure. I don't know, I'm speculating, but, we know he's a good driver, and I'd like to see him. I mean, he finished in the points in Miami, so that's good,
Yeah, I
but
think there's pressure for results. I think it's probably just experience, which is why it's really
yeah.
good to have Fernando with him
Yeah, yeah.
to mentor him
He
and
is a
bring him
younger
up.
guy. I mean, he's got a few seasons
Yeah.
under his belt, but he is still a younger
He's
guy.
young. He's young compared to Fernando. Well,
Well, yeah, everyone's
everybody on
young
the grid
compared to
except for, Sebastian is everybody's young, and Lewis, really, if you think about it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, that's a good point. I think they are the wild card team. Like I said, my assumption in that is that I think Valtteri is getting a lot out of the Alfa Romeo with the Ferrari engine like Haas, um, but I think the Alpine has they're right now they're underrepresented in the statistics, let's
Yes.
say, because they could be much farther up the ladder here, equal or above McLaren if they could avoid bad luck.
And
So
poor reliability. Yeah.
yeah, yep, and yeah, without crashing and things like that, but
Yeah.
that was a mechanical that caused him to crash, now that I think about it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway, yeah, those things, yeah, certainly that could change things, in a heartbeat. But anyway, I think we beat teams to death for now, unless you can think of something else.
Well, yeah, maybe the last thing here is AlphaTauri is the sister team to Red Bull.
Mhm.
Why are they 7th and Red Bull is fighting for the lead?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know I don't have the answer
Well,
to
yeah,
that.
no, I know. Wait,
Other
so you're
than
telling me you don't know everything there is to know?
not well, not about AlphaTauri. It's a good question. I'm going back to the other
Yeah.
teams, the second team for Red Bull. That's so you have Sonoda driving for AlphaTauri
And Gasly. And I
and
think both of
Gasly.
them are good drivers.
Yeah,
I think Sonoda is a development driver right now. He's has I honestly think he really has potential, but he's not up to it. He's shown flashes of it, but I'd like to see him get more consistent. But Gasly, he's been incredibly consistent and performs really well. But I think at the end of the day, they are just their own team. It's not like it's Red Bull giving them all of
right.
their parts and designing the same car.
What you don't have is Adrian Newey, and you don't
Correct.
have Christian Horner, and
Correct.
you don't have some of that stuff because it
Yeah.
is a sister team, and they're training all of those guys
Yeah.
how to be the future of Red Bull.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're gonna definitely give them, the big brother routine sometimes, and hey,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
guys ought to be looking at this. But ultimately, running Red Bull is going to be a full time job, and AlphaTauri is kind of part of that. But there are, I would imagine, there's limitations on you can't on how much how much interaction they can have and things
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. So
I'm sure they're like
yeah.
a customer team, a lot like Haas is to Ferrari. But I don't know how far that goes.
Well, I know Total Wolf was actually complaining to the FIA this year that because Alfa Romeo had offices in Maranello at Ferrari's corporate headquarters.
Was it Alpha or was it Haas? I thought it was Haas.
It's one
One
of
or
the
the
2.
other.
I
Yeah.
thought it was Alpha, but he's like, "Hey, what's going on here? Isn't this getting a little too close?"
Yeah. Which
And they didn't find any impropriety,
yeah.
um, so there is a expected separation to some degree, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
all I'm gonna,
Yeah.
and again, it's another good question, something I'll probably find myself looking into it. If I can't sleep at 11 o'clock or midnight, I'm gonna go, what
Yeah.
is the story with AlphaTauri? So,
Yeah.
thanks for that, Matt. So,
Anytime, anytime. All right. So I think we can go ahead and move on unless there was anything else you
okay,
wanted to bring up.
yeah, no, let's do it. Let's move on. What else do we got?
Cool. So let's go ahead and talk about Andretti. What did you learn about Andretti Motorsport?
Okay, well, almost predictably so, but just to bring everybody up to speed, Andretti Motorsports, headed right now by Michael Andretti, has stated their intention to the FIA that they want to enter Formula One in 2024, I believe.
And just have
It's
a 11th team that's Andretti.
Yeah, it would be an 11th team,
Nice.
which yeah, hasn't it's been 10 teams for a long time now.
Yeah.
They're willing to put up the $200 million price tag that you have to pay to enter the fund, and they're willing to do that. I did find out something interesting that right now they're Andretti Motorsports, but if they enter Formula One, they want to do it under the title of Andretti Global,
Oh,
which I thought
interesting.
was really interesting. But Michael was at Miami, and he was basically, shaking hands and kissing babies. He was doing all he could to meet with the team principals and all the teams, and trying to get them on board with having an 11th team.
As he should.
Right, he's doing his job
Yeah.
as the head of Andretti Motorsports, and he wants to grow the brand. I mean, they're one of the biggest names in motor racing, and have been since Mario won the Indy 500 in 1969 as a rookie driver.
Well, yeah.
And then he goes on from there, and we don't need to recount all that. But
Yeah, yeah.
the point is that in American motorsports, Andretti is a huge name, and
Yeah.
they've never gone away.
Yeah.
And so now they have a third generation with Marco driving the car, and he's in his 40s. It could easily go to a fifth generation.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, and he was shaking hands. Now you have some people, you kind of have lines being drawn. You have, for example, you have Zach Brown with McLaren. He's American. He's very pro Andretti. He wants them to enter the sport. He thinks that it would be a good idea. I think, if I understood it correctly, that Christian Horner is not opposed to it,
Yeah.
but Total Wolf is concerned about it.
I believe Ferrari is too.
And Ferrari, I think, is as well. Now, Total Wolf made a good point, and that is that he said that in order to have an 11th team and they just pay their $200 million and they come into this sport that's been, that these teams have all contributed
Hmm.
lots and lots of money to grow over the years.
Mm-hmm.
He's basically, what he said is Mercedes has like $1 billion investment in Formula One, in the sense of the money they put up.
That is a really good point.
Yeah. Yeah. That they put like $1 billion into it. Now, you still have to take a step back and go, okay, that's true. I appreciate that. But what you're literally saying is that for now till the end of time, there will only be 10 teams in Formula One. And
Yeah.
I don't see the FIA making that distinction. And I think if they're going to go with an 11th team, it's going to be Andretti Global. And the reason is
Yeah.
they are legit. Michael raced Formula
Yeah.
One back in his day. His dad raced Formula One. They're, the everything I said previously
Yeah.
about their brand, and the fact that Formula One is on the ascendancy as far as popularity goes here in America. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think if there's going to be an 11th team now, and if not, then Michael is going to have to buy, another team, like maybe Aston Martin becomes Andretti Global at some point in the future.
Yeah. I kind of
That's
hope.
He's going to have to buy a team to get in, but
Yeah.
who knows,
Yeah. I kind of hope that they make their own team because, like what you were getting at, if there was some investing firm or something that came to Formula One and being like, we want to create a Formula One team, I think the FIA should turn them down. I think they should be like, no. But like you were saying, given that there's so much history, so much established credibility behind the Andretti name, like, why would you not?
Yeah, they've been active in motorsports for decades and decades and decades.
Yeah,
And again, the American connection, America's a new market, so they are
yeah,
very American. But yet with a European connection too, Mario being born in Italy. So, and it's, yeah, I think now you in your other scenario, an investment group would be turned away in 2 seconds if they tried that, because they would, unless they came with this huge array of talent that had already signed on with them.
yeah.
But yeah, you can't use Formula One to make money.
No.
So that will never happen. But in this case, it's a legit offer. Andretti's a legit name. It would be recognizable in America. There's a lot of positives and reasons why this should happen. But yet, the new head of, the F1 Global, or F1, the new F1 team, whatever it's called, the corporate F1, uh, the new guy that they appointed this year, his name's escaping me. It's like
Mohammed
Ben
bin
something with
Salayim or something
Mohammed
like
bin
that?
something with an S, yeah.
Yeah,
That guy has said that, there's no guarantees and we'll be considering it, but
yeah,
he hasn't shown his hand at all at this point.
yeah, yeah,
So it's not a given. And that's what, and some people like to say it is, and you'll see clickbait
yeah,
things like Andretti to enter Formula One in 2024 exclamation point. And you click on the video and
yeah.
it's nothing more than what we've just told you. So
Well, the Race, who's an independent news outlet, they've kinda covered the Andretti story quite a bit, and the
yeah,
last thing that they had said prior to their video that was uploaded this week,
yeah.
was that it was not likely, and then now they have a video where they're going into details about, well, maybe there's a ray of hope, so, like, you know,
Yeah.
it remains to be
I
seen.
think it right now it's complete speculation, but what I'm looking at, I'm taking the 40,000-foot big picture
Yeah.
approach. And what I'm looking at is they have the money, they have the name, they have the
Yep.
expertise. If there was going to be an 11th team,
It would be them.
and with Formula One in America, and they want to grow the sport here because it is an entertainment, it's a money-making enterprise. These are the guys. You either grab that brass ring and you only get one chance,
Yeah.
or you're going to lose it forever. I think Formula One's going to grab it. If I had to guess, I now 2024, who knows? Might be 2025, but
Yeah.
I think there will be an Andretti Global. They will be in Formula One, but they're gonna really have to perform, and they're gonna have their work cut out for them. And,
Yes.
it's yeah.
Yeah, if they immediately come in and they're a back marker and they're not even competitive, that's not
Well,
good.
they might be, but they're gonna have to be at least in the show, because a lot of people don't know this. Your car has to be within a certain percentage of the fastest car on the
Right.
track or the slowest car. You can't even be in the race, and they're
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, like, if they show up with a car that isn't that.
yeah. Well, there when Force India first came in, there were times where they wouldn't even let them qualify. They weren't fast
Really?
enough, Yeah.
Wow, okay.
They weren't fast enough to qualify. Didn't last long, but when they first came in, it was like, "Wow, okay. These guys will never go anywhere." Well, they're now Aston Martin,
Right,
so
right.
but anyway, yeah, that's
Okay.
kind of the hit that's my update on the Ferrari thing. Alright, I'm sorry, on the Andretti thing.
So hold on, why do we need this American name in F1 when we already have an American F1 team?
Well, we do and we don't. We have a Dutchman running a team called Haas that's, part of the famous old, like, Newman Haas Racing, that is based in America, but they have European drivers,
Yep.
European everything. They're probably their factory. I don't think their factory is their factory in America, or is it in Milton Keynes?
I
I don't know.
believe they are headquartered in America. That's
I'm
my
not
understanding.
I mean, the headquarters are, but I don't think their factories
Their
there. I
factory may
think their
not be, but
factory
their headquarters are.
I think their factories in England. So it's like, yeah, I mean, Haas wanted to be part of racing and he has lots of money. So he does own the team, but it's still a European team, in my
Yeah.
opinion. So in this case, this would be a red, white, and blue American team. And, who knows who's going to build the motors? It'll probably be Andretti has a long relationship with Honda. I would
Oh,
imagine that,
interesting.
yeah, that could be part of it. Maybe they're going to trying to source an engine from Honda or Renault. Actually, I think they've been in talks with Renault. So they
Interesting.
may have a Renault engine, and so but I think it would be I would like Mario's still very active in the sport. He's 80, early 80s. I think he's around 80 right now,
Something like.
if not early 80s, but he's still driving people around at tracks,
Yeah.
in the double-seater Indy cars,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
guy's amazing. But I would love to see his name become back into Formula 1 as a team owner. I'd like him
That
to
would be
see that
awesome.
while he's still around, and then he could just, sit back in his castle and go, "Okay, I really did it. I we're this is great.
I've
Everything's in
come full
control. Michael's
circle.
got it."
Yeah.
Yeah. The poor Italian kid who immigrates to America.
Yeah.
Now look, the ultimate like American
He's
success story.
absolutely. He's got an
So
amazing story.
yeah, yeah, and he seems like a really great guy
Yeah.
too. And he and Michael have been riding motorcycles their whole lives too, just like someone else, So that's another thing about them that's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
But anyway, okay, where are we off to next, man?
Let's so after the Miami Grand Prix last week,
Yes.
there was a lot of colorful language on various social media platforms by fans and viewers and whatnot, basically going into lots of detail about, some were just saying it
Yes.
was just kind of
Those
overhyped and I didn't get it.
ostentatious
Yeah,
Americans.
and then there was a whole bunch of other people who were, like, really going after it, like, what happened here? Why was there so much hype and show and
Mhm.
what's the term? Fashion over f or f
Well, I think it was hyped.
hype,
There
I
was a lot
suppose,
of
yeah.
showbiz and
Yes.
flash and hype with Miami.
Yes. And then they were
Mhm.
like, yeah, and then the race wasn't that good, and it's just like, as if you
Well,
can
it
know that
was a
ahead of
good race,
time,
though.
and I
It
think it
was
was
a
a good
good
race, yeah.
race. Yeah.
But, like, so okay, so I read all of that stuff, and I
Yeah.
heard
Yeah.
different I not all of it, obviously, but I heard a lot of different people being like, it was way too flashy, it was way too showy,
Sure.
and I'm just like I'm sitting there going, "This is kinda what we do in America, though." Like, we go all out.
Right.
Like, anyone who has that opinion about the Miami race has
Yeah.
clearly never been to an Alabama Clemson college football game. And I'm not talking about a championship game. I'm talking about a
Yeah.
regular
Yeah.
old season game. Like, go look up YouTube videos about that if you don't know what I'm talking about. They go all out.
Right. Well, the first thing that crossed my mind when I, started seeing the ankle biters going, "Oh, it was so flat." It's mainly Europeans. Is I'm going, "Oh, you're really gonna hate Vegas, baby.
Yeah, for real.
You're gonna hate Vegas
For
next year
real.
because, you wanna see gaudiness and flash and stars and, right,
Yeah.
it's only 5 hours to get from LA to Vegas or, on an airplane, so
Yeah.
40 and 30 minutes or something. It's like, "Oh, you wait, you've seen nothing yet." But, yeah, I mean, it is the American spirit. We do things in a big way.
Yeah.
America's a big country, and
We go
if
big.
we're gonna do something, we do it,
Yeah.
and the East Coast has their own flavor that is a little different than they would do it on the West Coast, and
Or even Austin. Like, Austin doesn't have that culture.
yeah, Austin is definitely got its own flavor, and they're even the first race there wasn't this crazy,
No.
but, I'm not a flashy guy, like, I'm not into that stuff myself.
No, me
I
either,
have
but
no desire to hobnob with the Hollywood elite, anything like that, but, I can see Formula 1 draws the rich and famous, always has, always will,
yeah.
as long as they're around. That is part and parcel of Formula 1. So it's a place to seen and be seen.
Yeah, yeah.
To see and be seen, So that's what, you're going to get that in Florida. And the weather's good. There's people are,
And even Miami has that kind of party culture. Like, they
entertainment, culture, beaches,
absolutely.
white sand. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, like, if there was a venue other than Vegas that's gonna have a big
Mhm.
party, Miami makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. And it's easily accessible from people, there's a lot of people come down to Florida from New York. And so you're going to get the East Coast crowd they may or may not go to Texas. So it makes perfect sense to me because if you think about it, let's look at this. You got Texas in the middle of the country with Coda. Now we have the Miami track over at the Hard Rock,
Hmm.
stadium. And then you have Vegas on the West Coast, essentially.
Hmm.
So now you have 3 races, and everybody, no matter what third of the country you live in, you can make it to one of them.
Hmm.
And each one's gonna have its own, it's gonna reflect the flavor of where it's at. I think it's makes a lot of sense to me that they
Yeah.
should be in all 3 places.
Yeah.
So, and the East Coasters, they need their race too, and they're gonna do it the way they're gonna do it, and it was hyped, and that is an American thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, my personal sensibilities are more moderate. Our family comes from England and Scotland,
Long
so
time
we're
ago, but
going
yeah.
a long, long time ago, long time ago. We've been in America for many, many, many generations. But the point is that that's my deep down, my spirit's more English than it is flashy American. But at the same time, I get it, I understand, and it's America. America. Just get used to it, guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Prepare yourself now. You're going to be crying after Vegas.
Yeah. All right. So, what are these potential issues with Ferrari? You said that there
Ah,
may be some potential penalties or at least investigations. What's going on with that?
yes. So, apparently there's a um I've heard, and Total Wolf, this is one thing that Christian Horner and Total Wolf agree on, which makes me a little bit worried. But there's different kinds of testing. You know how the teams have limited testing. And however, there's a separate category of testing called tire testing.
Mm,
And they can go test tires at a test track.
yeah.
And they have so many hours. So apparently, recently Ferrari did some tire testing, but somebody happened to notice that the floorboard on the car was different than the floorboard they're running in the races.
Ooh, that's a no-no.
They thought that they were kind of sneaking in an aero test along with the tire test, thinking nobody would
Mm.
know. Now, Ferrari says, no, 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 no. This is a floorboard we've used in competition already this year. It's just we didn't make a big deal about it. Um, no
Interesting.
impropriety here. Move along, nothing to see.
Yeah.
But and it's not that, like, Toto and Christian aren't directly accusing Ferrari of impropriety, but they're saying it is being looked at. And what they both said is virtually an identical statement. I'm sure the FIA will investigate and do the right thing. We
Yeah.
have the utmost confidence in them.
Which is a very diplomatic way of saying they better investigate and
You better
yeah.
investigate it correctly and do the right thing, or
Yeah.
we're going to scream bloody murder.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Pretty much.
now Ferrari got caught bending the rules in 2019.
Yeah,
Remember when
their
their engines
engine.
all of a sudden got really fast?
Yeah.
So, and they kind of, bent the rules. I mean, they all do. Believe me,
Yeah.
they've all
I
done
mean,
it at
that's
some
been the
time or
history
another.
of Formula 1 is finding the loopholes and exploiting them. And
Yeah, and then
you can't blame them.
and sometimes the team thinks that it's legal, and then they
True.
find out, no, it isn't.
Yeah.
Like Mercedes got dinged last year with their rear wing. Remember the opening
Right,
on the
right.
rear
Yeah.
wing? So this kind of stuff happens all the time. The teams keep an eye on each other. They watch each other like hawks.
Yeah.
I'm sure Mercedes has people that are, they're paid to spy on Ferrari when they do things like test tires,
Yeah, yeah.
and whatnot, and all the teams do this. So yeah, but I just thought it was something to mention that's in the
Yeah.
wind, because it could, in theory, penalize Ferrari, and they could ding. I don't know if they ding them construction points. I don't know
I don't know.
what
It
possible
if it's
penalties are out
if they
there.
deem it as not egregious, they'll probably just fine them. But I think if they find it as being like actual new parts that they're testing when they shouldn't be because all testing needs to be done throughout race
Yeah,
weekends,
yeah.
then I think they probably would do some kind of a more substantial penalty. But I mean, we'll see. I personally don't expect anything to come of it. But
Yeah, I couldn't figure out exactly when this tire testing took place, but I'll put it this way. If they did develop a new floorboard and that was on the car and they did that prior, like during the season, and they used that new floorboard after the tire test in a competition, then that would be a much more serious infraction, in
yeah,
my opinion. That could
yeah.
they could invalidate the results.
Oh,
You
that's
test,
interesting.
or a penalty or something. Who knows?
Yeah,
So yeah, but I don't think that was the charge, but there is something going on with that. Just
yeah.
thought I'd mention it. So I'll try and I'll dig to the bottom
Okay.
on the next night when I'm up till midnight and
He's
can't
on
sleep.
the
So
case.
I'm on the case.
Yeah. All right, and then, I guess last thing before we take a look at Spain,
Yeah.
What's up with Mercedes? Because you said that there were some potential do or die kind of situations going on with them. So,
Yes. So in our previous, you know, when we were leading up to Miami doing like the preamble for that race, I just kind of I remember making a statement something like, in my mind this is it. These guys gotta make a difference in Miami.
yeah,
They can't, this if they're going to be back, they got to do it now. Well, if where Total Wolf is saying what I said about Miami, he's saying about Spain.
yeah,
He's like, okay, this is it. We have to get better in Spain. Now, the big difference between the Miami track and the Spanish track is that the teams test at the Catalonia track, the Barcelona
right.
Catalonia track in Spain.
Yeah,
And Miami was a brand new track that nobody had seen before because they were still building it. So
yeah,
it probably wasn't a really good track to bring major updates to, although they did bring some. Um, but the Barcelona track, or the Circuit de Catalonia, is one that they know inside and out. So that this is where he feels like they actually had a chassis that did not porpoise, but it was much slower.
yeah,
I've seen some clickbait videos where they're saying, like, hey, they're going back to the old chassis. And, from what I've seen from Total Wolf, he's saying, I'm not, I think there's some really smart people working on this car. I'm not ready to throw the towel in
yeah,
yet. We know that that car doesn't porpoise, but it is slower. We haven't completely given up on this latest design, but we have to get better. So
yeah,
in his mind, this is it. It sounded like they pretty much have to see some significant results in Spain, or it's going to cause a completely new direction. They may abandon this car and go back to the slower one that doesn't porpoise
yeah.
after that. And then if that happens, who knows where their season's going to be? Because they may not even score as many points as they have been now, but it would be a safer car.
Well, it's one of those things where it's going to be good either way because either they stick with
Yeah.
their current thing, their current design, and they say, this is what we're investing into, which continues in their same trajectory of development, and they can work with it eventually.
Yep.
Or they go to the old design and they say, okay, this current design philosophy is flawed fundamentally, which is a
Yep.
really, really good thing to know. And then they go back to their older design that doesn't porpoise, but it's slower. And they say, okay, we have a car that we can make faster. We
Yep.
don't have to worry about porpoising, throwing everything off. We can just
Well,
make this car faster and develop it normally, which means they're
yeah.
behind, but it means that they have a clear direction to go in, which right now they don't appear to.
Yeah, and just, kind of tongue in cheek here, but German engineers, in my opinion, they tend to be extremely stubborn. I am not
Yes.
generalizing. We're having fun here.
Yes.
And one quick example of this. I know that when inline or opposed or inline four-cylinder engines are supposed to be inherently balanced, right?
Okay.
So, and then in the BMW motorcycle world, when they first came out with what they called the K motor, it's when it was the first water-cooled engine that deviated from the air-cooled flat twin. They didn't put a balancing shaft on it because the German. My understanding was, and I did have a book on this actually, that the German engineers were like, no, the four cylinder is inherently balanced. We don't need to put a balance shaft on here. Yeah, we will refuse. But I had the K75, a couple of those, and those are the three-cylinder engines that are inherently unstable and absolutely need a balancing shaft, or some glob of metal to balance it out. And the bottom line, and this always cracked me up, is when they decide to engineer something, they go for it. So they engineered
Hmm.
this thing, and the 3 was smoother than the 4 because they actually engineered it to be smooth. So, and here's what I'm getting at. On the computer, the engineers swear that the current chassis with Mercedes should not porpoise.
Yeah.
And so I think this is part of the problem with the German team. They will not admit it's porpoising. It's like, but it can't. The computer model said that's not porpoise, but it's porpoising, but it's impossible. I can just imagine in my head, kind of doing like a Jay Leno bit here, but I can just imagine in my head the conversations going on at Mercedes right now.
Uh,
It's cannot be happening,
yeah.
but so, but that's what I think that's part of the problem, and so Toto's trying to he's Austrian, so he doesn't know what to do, but but he's trying to
Well,
he's trying to figure out, like, okay, like, well, yeah, we're gonna stick to the design as much as we can, but come on, guys, at some point, we need to get this figured out, and Lewis is English, and it just gets crazy after a while, but
well, well, now that you've offended half the people in Europe, um,
there you go. If I didn't do it with the Miami and Las Vegas thing, I think I took care of it now.
yep.
Hey, it's all in fun.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Anything else about Mercedes before we go ahead and take a look at
No,
Spain?
no, just that this is gonna be a very important race for them.
Absolutely.
My hat I wish them the best. I would love to see them resolve their issues because I wanna see a level playing field.
Yeah,
But that is part of a new design. Anytime force a new design, this is the risk. The
yeah,
risk is a prominent team can't get it right, and
yep,
it's happened before. And I'm surprised it happened to Mercedes, but it's
yeah.
it's always a possibility.
Well, like I said before, the one of the main things I wanted from this season was Mercedes to not be dominant, but that didn't mean I wanted them to be nowhere. Like the
No, I did not. Nobody called this.
no,
I would never have called this.
no,
But that's what's so exciting about this sport.
yeah, yeah. But I don't know. The way I kind of look at it is, what's better than two teams fighting for the championship? Three teams fighting for the championship.
Oh, amen. Absolutely.
So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. So, all right, looking towards Spain. Spain is coming up next week. And as we've mentioned, this is where they do all their preseason testing. So they have lots of data about it. However,
Well, it's coming up this weekend.
yes, however, this design of cars are able to
Mhm.
follow each other, which is something that has been historically difficult at Catalunya.
Okay.
So there's lots of big long corners, which with the previous aero design of vehicles, uh, basically means you can't follow anybody for the lap, and then you have to just hope and pray you're close enough to them by the DRS zone to even try. And so it's not had the most exciting racing historically. So hopefully, with cars being able to actually follow each other now, it'll be an exciting race.
Oh, I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an important race, and it'll be exciting, and it's the precursor to Monaco as well.
Yes,
So,
Monaco.
that's good. Yeah, it's gonna be very, very interesting. It's racing season is heating up around the world.
Yes.
This is a great May is an exciting month for
Yeah.
racing, and the Spanish Grand Prix in Monaco, I can't wait for it. But I just, again, no need to repeat ourselves. It's extremely important for Mercedes, but you're right. With the cars following, it'll be interesting to see if passing is maybe this is the track that will show us that the new design really does what they said it would do.
Yeah.
So we can all be watching for that. That's a really good observation.
Yeah. And it basically kicks off the European leg of the calendar where you have Spain, then Monaco, then Azerbaijan, and then Canada.
Yeah.
But then you have Great Britain, Austria,
Mhm.
France, Hungary, Belgium, Netherlands, Italy. All in kind of an order. Now there's the
Yeah.
summer break in there, but that's the kind of European leg, and then you go off to Singapore, Japan, and others. But
Yeah.
so you have all these really iconic tracks coming up, and Spain is certainly one of them, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. It should be a good race.
Alrighty. Well, that's going to do it for us for today. We will be back as always for our recap of the Spanish Grand Prix. Be sure to tune in for that. But until then, thanks so much for tuning in and take care of yourselves.